Everyone, my name's Billie Jean, and today we're talking about protest. I promised you guys a protest video a while ago. Oh, I forgot to do my hair. There, that's as much time as I spend on my hair. So, and I'm going to tell you a secret. I don't like marching. It bores me. Now, I totally wanted to march. I totally wanted to be involved in protests as I was growing up. I couldn't wait. Now, I had seen the civil rights movement. I had seen Eyes on the Prize, the civil rights documentary. I was ready for my protests. I wanted to be a part of something that was so big and so helpful like they were. And so finally, when I got to college, I went to my first protest. My first protest, it was a bunch of us eager college students riding a bus all the way from Minnesota to Georgia. We were going to protest the School of the Americas. Basically, they were the training grounds for dictators and people who committed war crimes and civil rights violations. Like these people. So, because this was on American soil, we were going to close it down. We marched in the street until we got there, blocked traffic, and then we moved to the side and we sat on the grass for hours. I was bored. Was this really changing anything? We weren't learning anything. We weren't doing anything. We were just waiting. So then the call came for those who wanted to go over the yellow line. Now, they had been doing protests here for so long that they actually painted a yellow line in the road. They painted a yellow line in the road. This is how far you can go before you'll get arrested. So you can protest up to this point, and then once you cross this yellow line, then you'll be arrested. So the call came to cross the yellow line. Now, they told us that if we got arrested, we might not be able to catch the bus home. I wasn't about to miss my bus. My mother or I couldn't pay for a way for me to get back home. And to be honest, I wasn't quite sure if what we were doing was helping. So I didn't cross the line, and those that did, they didn't even bother arresting them. That's how long the protest had been going on there. So we did shut it down 8 years later, but they just reopened it the next day under a new name. So instead of marching, I decided to volunteer. I volunteered with all different kinds of causes. That way, I knew I was doing something to help things move forward, to make change, or at least to help people in the here and now. So by the time the Black Lives Matter protests come along, I am just learning how to be in my body again, and I'm learning how to be in a relationship for the first time. So I watched the protests thinking I should join, and then wondering, would it really help? I patiently waited on the highway while they marched on it instead of joining them, because I didn't think it would make a difference. So cut to 22 years after my first march, George Floyd is murdered in the middle of the street in the midst of a global pandemic. The world erupts. Suddenly people care. People might actually see these marches as more than an annoyance, and it will actually create change. So I'm ready. I want to go. There's a freaking global pandemic, and my immune suppressed status means it's easier for me to get it than anybody else. So I don't march then either. I stay at home, and I start my protests at home. I Facebook Live every night for almost a month, and then I start this channel, but it's not enough. I'm desperate to be with people that need change as much as I do, that want to be on the front lines of this. So I finally get to go to a protest. But once again, I feel like we're doing nothing. We block traffic, and we listen to a lot of heartbreaking speeches. But I'm not sure we're making change. So I focus on what I came there for. Making connections. There's this one woman that I have to make a connection with. She spoke.
One of the things Communities United Against Police Brutality has fought for a long time is for police to carry their own liability insurance.
And everything she said was powerful and had meaning. I kept an eye on her for the rest of the march. I kept pace and would panic every time I would lose sight of her. Tiny bit of stalking. No, just kidding. As the sun sets, we're back where we started. And I wait for the crowd around her to disperse. Everybody knows her already. When I finally get to her, she gives me what I want. Or at least what I needed. A website to keep me connected with people that need to make change. Just to be clear, marches are fine. They bring great attention to an issue. They just depend too heavily on how many people show up, and we have to do them right. So I get on the website and make connections, but I'm still restless. Nothing seems to be changing. We're not getting anywhere. Then finally it happens. I don't remember how I heard of this book, but I heard of How We Win by George Lakey. Winning sounds great. So I read it and it changes everything for me. I finally learn how we do it. I finally learn how we make change. It's not marches or the riots. It's a specific kind of protest. It's small dramatic actions that lead to social change or stifle the oppressor's ability to make money. Think about it. How many marches from the 60s do you remember? Now take out all the ones where the police acted like assholes. Where they brought out the dogs, take out the ones where they brought out the fire hoses, take out the ones where they beat people. Now how many marches do you remember? What about speeches? How many speeches do you remember? Every one of those marches had speakers, usually multiple speakers. Do you remember any of them? Most people only remember the I Have a Dream speech. And of that 17-minute speech, they remember, I have a dream. One day, black people and white people can live together and be judged by the content of their character instead of the color of their skin. Now, I know that wasn't exactly right, but that's the gist of the part that most people remember. And that's all I can remember. And I've watched that speech multiple times. People remember experiences. People remember drama. People remember feelings. That's why people aren't remembering how many thousands of peaceful protests and marches there have been since the murder of George Floyd. They only remember the riots. And they remember those because they made them feel something. People whose minds need to be changed aren't going to hear words. They're going to feel feelings. This is the kind of protest that we've been ignoring. I know that I talked to you guys in my first video, white people and protests. However, I didn't understand exactly what I was talking about. Nonviolent direct action isn't about being beat up. It's about making people feel things. It was about the inequality being shown without words. So the students sitting down at the all-white lunch counter, getting things thrown on them and being spit on and beat, and the freedom riders who got burned out of their bus and beat up, and the bus boycotts showed inequality without words. The bus boycotts also did another thing they hurt economically. Show an inequality that people can understand without words, and or hit them in their pocketbooks. And that's how we make change. Well, that's step 3 of how we make change. Step 1 is figuring out what the heck you're talking about. What are your goals? Black Lives Matter is a statement, not a destination. Step 2, go on the offensive. Now I'm airing more of my dirty laundry today. So when the LGBTQ leaders kept pushing for more and more rights, before people had even gotten used to the ones that they had just given us, I was scared. I wasn't sure that that's what we should be doing. Wanted them to step back a little. Hold on. Let people get used to us. Settle in. I was scared if we kept pushing, it would fall apart. Turns out I had no idea what I was talking about. It only gets stronger. And now we're going for trans and non-cisgender rights. All right, I'm on board. Let's keep going. Step 3, I told you. Dramatic actions that'll show inequalities without words. Or that'll hurt them in the pocketbook. Step 4, repeat. Now, there is a lot more to it. It's a whole book after all. 1, the marches that we do, we have to sit our asses down. Police officer or another antagonist is coming at you. Sit down. So why don't you run away or stand toe to toe with them? It's because less people get hurt that way. If you sit down, if they do decide to be assholes, it's a great photo op. They're over you, looking tyrannical, and you look non-threatening. It is a dramatic action that has no words, that shows the inequality. They did this all the time in the 60s during the civil rights movement. When they marched, when they reached the police officers, a lot of the times they would kneel down and pray. Now, kneeling down was them just trying to get everybody to sit down or kneel down. Just get down. Basically, Jesus is telling you to sit your ass down. No, just kidding. So right now, what people are remembering are the riots, the violence. When asked, do you agree with Black Lives Matter? About 10% of people changed their mind. People said no. People who had answered yes after the George Floyd killing. And that's because of the riots. What people are feeling right now is fear. They need law and order because they're scared. What we want them to feel is empathy. Turns out, you only need 5% of people to join you in nonviolent actions. Some studies even say 3.5%. I don't understand how it works. I just know that if 5% of people care more about change than they do about destructively expressing anger, we can get this done. We win. I want to be a winner. Oh, thank you so much for listening to this talk on protests. Please tell everybody you know to sit their ass down if they're protesting. It's a powerful tool that we're not using. That's right. Let me do a little demo. So, but pretend I have 2 I don't know, 20-ounce bottles of soda, 16. I don't know what they come in. Who cares? Nobody cares. And pretend that our goal is to get the caps off of these sodas, right? So on one soda, we shake it, we shake it, we shake it, shake it, shake it. Oh, this way we get our shakes in too. So we shake it up. And there we go. Did the cap come off? Or are we just destroying all the bubbles in there? This one, I know. But I can just twist the cap and the cap will come off. Because people before me taught me how to do that. Nobody's taught us how to do protesting. But there are people who know how. And we can teach each other to listen to them. So even if somebody does shake it, now the top's already off. We can do this. We can do this. Oh, let me drink. No, just kidding. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe, please. And even if you don't like and subscribe, at least tell people how to protest. Tell people how to protest that will actually make change. Our goal is change. Our goal is not protesting. All right?